All right, shifting gears now to the United States, where Hurricane Harvey has slammed into the Texas coast as a Category 4 storm on Friday. Tonight, what's next for liquor baron Vijay Mallya? Over the next 30 minutes, we'll discuss Mallya's arrest and bail in London. Just when we thought things were sort of easing up between Washington and Pyongyang, well, things have taken a turn yet again this weekend. We're coming to you live from Chennai in Tamil Nadu, where we've been on the ground covering all the political developments as the state goes through a huge shuffle, a turmoil, as the race for who will be the next chief minister of the state continues. We're talking about the thick smog that has now developed in parts of South Asia, covering every street corner. Well, especially India's capital, New Delhi, was really tough outside. Now, when the rains came down in December, a lot of the water here rose up and flooded the bridge, making it impossible for traffic to get across. A developing situation at Barcelona's iconic Las Ramblas on Thursday. No word on injuries or the death toll at this point, but we do know 2 men entered a restaurant, so still a very active situation. Over the past 85 weeks, thousands of volunteers have collected trash and removed debris from the Versova Creek. Police are still piecing together clues as to what led to the worst mass shooting in U.S. history. Well, we've all heard the famous Big Ben. Well, guess what? It's going to go silent for the next 4 years. He'll meet for the first time with U.S. President Donald Trump in the White House. He'll have quite a bit of things to discuss. It's only a 20-minute conversation between the two leaders. They've talked on the phone before, but this will be their first face-to-face meet. The pictures are just hard to see, just horrific, as the world comes to terms with the deadly attack in Syria. Well, the blame game is now on. Who was behind the gas attack that killed so many innocent people? It's been 15 years since the September 11th attacks, and since then, many Sikhs who live here say they've become targets for racial slurs and simply being called Muslim terrorists. You see them on every block in New York City. Yellow cabs.
It's a good way to make a living in New York City, because I don't have any other qualifications, so it's better to drive and afford your family.
Ravinder Singh is one of many taxi drivers in the city who are South Asian. 2 out of every 10 are Sikhs.
Sometimes they called us Osama bin Laden. I think they are ignorant, so we don't want to say anything to them, and just we close the door and come back.
Ravinder says most people confuse Sikhs for Muslims because of the turbans.
I think it's misidentification. People don't recognize the Sikhism. It's totally different than the Muslim people.
Other cab drivers, like Satnam Singh, share similar sentiments.
Just on the road, I'm driving, they will say something bad words, like Bin Laden or go back India, like that they speak.
It hurt me, because I'm not part of Osama bin Laden. We are very peaceful people and love this country. We are making a living here, growing up family.
Both say dealing with racist remarks just comes with the job.
It's horrible, but I can't do anything. I cannot run behind them and teach them or fight with them.
We try to explain him who we are, what's our religion, how peaceful we are.
The discrimination is not as bad as in other parts of the country.
I've been in Michigan. I bought a convenience store, and that was in the white people, white village. They hate us too much. They don't accept anybody. They discriminate too much. But in New York, I never felt that.
Only a few places like Gurdwara, they are attacking and damaging the building or beating the people.
But for now, these cab drivers educate others, one passenger at a time.
I understand that people, they don't understand me, so I keep quiet, or sometime if they try to listen to me, I tell them I'm not a Muslim, I'm Sikh.
I think it will take a time, but one day people will realize that we are nice people.
This is the 9/11 memorial here in New York City. It's been 15 years since the September 11th attacks, and since then, many Sikhs who live here say they've become targets for racial slurs and simply being called Muslim terrorists. But they say it's not as bad here in New York City as it is in other parts of the country, where many gurudwaras have been attacked simply because people think Sikhs are Muslims. Reporting in New York, Archith Seshadri, WION. It's been 2 months now since heavy rains flooded the southern Indian city of Chennai.
I've been here in Chennai for 4 years, but I've never seen the city so flooded.
Roads turned into rivers, and thousands were left in the dark.
Since continuous rain, we didn't have electricity at all here, and no water, and we were so much worried how to take care of these children. And if something happens to the children, there is no possibility of taking to the doctor. We were surrounded with water everywhere.
This orphanage near the city's airport is still recovering from mold thanks to all the water buildup.
Because of the heavy rain here, we have a lot of stagnation of water, especially on the terrace. So due to that, lot of leakage in the building, and our surrounding area is filled with water and a lot of mosquito problems. So we are worried about whether the children will get malaria or dengue fever.
Many slum areas were washed away, Saidapet being one of the hardest hit areas.
It was very difficult with the kids. We couldn't go anywhere for about 3 weeks. The water was as high as those buildings. We went to the terrace, and then about 12 families stayed together during the floods.
This is the Saidapet Bridge in Chennai, full of traffic on a busy afternoon with buses, auto rickshaws, and motorbikes. Now, when the rains came down in December, a lot of the water here rose up and flooded the bridge, making it impossible for traffic to get across. Now, in that process, it also damaged many of the slum homes here. A few months down the road, they are still rebuilding a lot of those homes that were lost.
You couldn't walk here. There was water until my knees, and we had major water issues.
Lots of people lost their livelihood. They lost their, like there's this one farmer who has 12 goats, so he lost 10 of it. And then one lady who is half paralyzed, she lost her house.
During this time, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, and all the religion, people from different religions, they all came together. For the first time, I have seen that Muslims have been lodged in Hindu temples, and they've been taken care of by the Hindu priests. And the Hindus were in the mosques, and Christians were in the Gurudwaras. So people were not bothered about whether you're a Hindu or a Muslim. It was just human to human. You can go now.
Those who had access to electricity used social media to find help and give help.
Social media helped us in a bigger way. We sourced about 5 tons of biryani from Hyderabad to Chennai when there was absolutely no connectivity to Chennai. The airports were closed. We sent out a tweet to Indigo to sort of help us out to fly in. If not for Twitter, if not for people on Facebook, I do not think that we'll be able to source food for 20,000 people.
A city usually famished for water, now back on its feet after one of the worst floods in its history. Archith Seshadri, CNN, Chennai, India. One of the busiest subway systems in the world, New York City. People come from all walks of life and represent the city's diversity. But no matter where they're from, they've all got one destination to reach. Piaget sur Piaget is one of them.
Sometimes just taking the subway and riding on the subway, as an African man, you're almost pushed aside as if you don't exist.
Piaget says he often feels targeted because of his skin color.
Well, statistically, just because of the color of my skin and my background, and probably my hair as well, that makes me a target for suspicious behavior.
Racism is always been here, and do I feel it's going to go away? No.
Rena Scott says more communication is needed between cops and citizens to reduce tensions.
In regards to being pulled over, even on the streets, we get pulled over more than any other race.
I don't feel protected by the police, and I certainly am concerned when I have interactions with the police because I know that I may be at a disadvantage.
Many people say racism still exists today in the United States, but just in a different form.
I know that the police will more likely stop me as opposed to a European American.
Protect and serve is their job. That's a great idea, but it's actually to enforce laws.
As race relations reach a new boiling point, the next U.S. president will have to find a way to mitigate tensions between police and African Americans.
Educating police, yes, definitely. but also educating people on peaceful protest, because there's always going to be those people that you can educate them until they're blue in the face and they're just racist.
My skin color and your skin color does not determine the person that I am or the person that you are.
This is Harlem, a predominantly African-American neighborhood in New York. Over the past few years, violent clashes between police and African-Americans have sparked protests in various cities, including Charlotte, Ferguson, and Baltimore. Many people we spoke to say it's a case of history repeating itself. The only difference is now there's a camera to prove it. Reporting in New York, Archith Seshadri, WION. Good evening, everyone. I'm Archith Seshadri. Thanks so much for joining us. Today is Saturday, August the 26th. The time now is 10:30 in the morning in New York, 3:30 in London, 4:30 in Cape Town, and 8 p.m. here in New Delhi. Tonight, we take a look at North Korea's latest move just as things were easing up between Washington and Pyongyang. Security forces are now locked in a gun battle with terrorists in the Pulwama district of Jammu and Kashmir. 8 security personnel have now lost their lives, while 2 of the terrorists have been gunned down. Here's the latest that we know. All right, let's take a look at all of this and break it all down. The war of words between Washington and Pyongyang. Of course, these 2 leaders neck and neck, taking jabs at each other left, right, and center. Well, the escalation in tension started with President Donald Trump's fire and fury comments back on August the 8th. Also take a look at the missiles North Korea is now developing. I mean, take a look at this wide range here. I mean, all the way from North Korea across the Pacific, all the way there, that could reach the mainland part of the United States. Also developing the KN-14. Now that has an estimated range of 10,000 kilometers. The KN-08, which has a range of almost 12,000 kilometers over there, you see there on the map, that could certainly hit the mainland of the United States. Let's get perspective and dive right into this discussion. Let's go to former ambassador to South Korea. Joining us now from New Delhi, we have Vishnu Prakash on this story. Vishnu Prakash, thank you so much for joining us, sir. We appreciate it. Let me ask you, dive into this. You know, just when we saw things sort of taking a step back, it seemed like North Korea wasn't being as aggressive, and then this, U.S. and South Korea doing their annual drills. Perhaps North didn't like it, and then now 3 more missile tests this weekend. What do we expect North? What is their strategy or plan moving forward? Let me also ask you, when it comes to the grave threat between the United States and North Korea, there was a lot of speculation about what may happen on the U.S. territory in Guam. I mean, that really sent the global community, the reaction that started to come in, and then things perhaps took a back seat. Now we see North Korea yet again putting out more short-range missile tests. How grave of a threat are we talking about when it comes to North Korea, India, some of these other Asian countries, and of course the United States? How concerned should they be when it comes to North Korea's nuclear ambitions? All right, Mr. Vishnu Prakash, former ambassador, joining us in the very latest with the North Korea missile program. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate your insights and inputs. All right, shifting gears now to the United States, where Hurricane Harvey has slammed into the Texas coast as a Category 4 storm on Friday around 10 p.m. local time. It packed winds of more than 200 kilometers an hour and is one of the most powerful storms to hit the mainland U.S. in more than a decade.